What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and what a Saturday we just had. Conference championship Saturday in college football, and it did not disappoint. A lot of great games, a lot of drama, and the playoff debate really begins now because we did see some things that we did not expect to see. I talked about the early games on a couple of videos I did earlier today. Clemson beating Notre Dame. I haven't really talked about that yet. That surprised me, the way they dominated in that game. I thought it was going to be a close game. Clemson looked really good, and that's a big blow for Notre Dame, possibly going to keep them out of the college football playoff. I'm going to give you my predictions on what I think the committee is going to do in just a second. Also, we had Cincinnati beating Tulsa in a great game. We saw San Jose State beat Boise State. Big one for them. Alabama and Florida, what a great game that was. That one just ended, and Florida had some opportunities in this game, especially defensively in the first half, where they just could not get off the field. Some penalties hurt them. They had the big interceptions, then they fumbled it right back. Florida had opportunities in this game. I was really impressed with this team. They proved that they could play with Alabama. Weren't good enough to beat them, but showed that they could play with them, and I think this Florida team is a top 10 team. So now I'm going to give you my official predictions for what I think the playoff committee is going to do tomorrow. And if you have never watched this channel, you never watched a video from me, just go back and watch my playoff ranking projection from last week. Again, it was very accurate. Got the top 11 exactly right. Predicted some things that no one else was predicting with those rankings. So I think I have a pretty good track record of predicting this. I'm not super confident on what's going to happen tomorrow. I think, we can't get inside the committee's head, and I think this is going to be the toughest decision that they have ever had to make. There has always been something they could lean on. Even when it was a tough debate, they could always say, well, we went with this team, they had one fewer loss, or something like that. There's always, well, this team is a conference champion. Well, this year, I don't know if there is any divider that they can use to separate for that fourth team. And so it's just simply going to be a debate on who they think the best team is. And I think I know who they're going to pick, but I'm not super confident, like I said. So let's get into the bracket. I'm also going to give you my New Year's 6 projections. I'm going to tell you who I think is going to go into the New Year's 6 bowls as well. So we'll get to that after the playoff projection. I think the top two are set. I think we know Alabama is number 1, Clemson's number 2. There's really no doubt about that. There may be some argument for Ohio State to go to number 2 because they're undefeated. They're a Power 5 champ, but they've only played the 6 games. They're not going to be at number 2. Clemson will be number 2. They were ahead of them before. They just beat what was the number 2 team in the country according to the playoff rankings. Clemson will be number 2. Alabama will be number 1. Again, there is no debate here. We know this. I don't think there's a whole lot of debate on number 3. Some people are going to disagree with this. And again, everything you see in this video is not my personal opinion, what I'd want to see or how I would rank these teams. I'm simply projecting what I think the committee is going to do. And I think they're going to put Ohio State at number 3. I would really be shocked if anyone else was here at number 3. They only played 6 games, sure. But look at where they were ranked before. And they just added a top 15 win and a conference championship. So they just added a lot to their resume. There is no reason for them to be anywhere but number 3. I think the Buckeyes will be at number 3 based off of where the committee has ranked them so far in the rankings. So now the drama comes down to number 4. I think there are 4 teams that have a chance to take that number 4 spot. Cincinnati, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. I put them in alphabetical order so that you would not think that I'm trying to rank them in any certain way, just to be clear. Now, how about Coastal Carolina, one team that is not here? I think Coastal Carolina has been underrated all year with these rankings. They have 2 top 25 wins. They beat Louisiana, they beat BYU, and they had to go out of their way to schedule BYU, so they were not shying away from the competition. I think Coastal Carolina has a better resume than Cincinnati, but the committee, based off of where they've ranked them, they're not going to put them, they're not going to consider them for number 4. If they had played, I'm going to give you my personal opinion. Not what I think the committee is going to do, but what I would do. If I was ranking these teams, If Coastal Carolina had played this weekend and they had beat Louisiana and had their third top 25 win and they were undefeated, I would have Coastal Carolina at number 4. I know that's not going to be a popular opinion, but I think they've just been totally disrespected, and I would put that team at number 4. But since they didn't play, I don't think there's enough for me to put a group of 5 team like that in here. Cincinnati just does not have a good enough resume for me. But the thing about Notre Dame and Texas A&M, they both had a shot at the top 4 teams, or a team out of the top 4. Notre Dame just got blown out by Clemson. You can say, well, they beat them the first time. Well, to me, it's pretty clear when these two teams are at full strength, Clemson is clearly the better team. The first game, a lot of things went Notre Dame's way. Clemson was missing their leader on offense and defense. So you can't watch today's game and say that Notre Dame is on Clemson's level. Texas A&M, same thing. Played Alabama, got blown out. I don't want to see either one of these teams in. So if it was me, I'd put Oklahoma in here. I really would. This year, when you have no real non-conference games, we don't know how good the Big 12 is. I know they didn't look good against the Sun Belt early on, but that was such a long time ago. And the way Oklahoma is playing right now, I would put Oklahoma at number 4. I know that's an unpopular opinion. I don't necessarily think they're the 4th best team, but again, just because I've seen Notre Dame and Texas A&M already have their shot and not even be competitive, that's why I would not put one of those teams in here. Who is the 4th best team in my opinion? The way they're playing right now, I'd actually probably go with Georgia. So I know that's not even a team we're considering here. They're a totally different team with JT Daniels at quarterback. But anyways, enough about my opinion. This video is about what the committee is going to do. And we're going to start here with Cincinnati. Cincinnati, undefeated. They have quality wins against Tulsa, Memphis, UCF, SMU. These are the same types of wins that Clemson had in the past. And they would be undefeated. They would maybe not have any top 25 wins, maybe 1, but the committee would still give them the credit and put them at 1 or 2. Cincinnati has the exact same type of resume, but they're not a Power 5 team. The committee has proven that they don't view them in the same way, so I don't think Cincinnati is a real contender. We're going to go ahead and move them out. So we have Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. Very interesting debate here. Based off of where Oklahoma was ranked before, it would be a huge leap to go all the way up to number 4. And I think they've proven, or they've shown in the past, that they really prefer a 1-loss team over a 2-loss team. I know Oklahoma has played really great as of late. And again, I'd probably put them in here if it was me. But I don't think the committee's going to, just because of the 2 losses and where they have them ranked now. I think it comes down to these 2 teams, Notre Dame and Texas A&M. And I really put a lot of thought into this, trying to figure out what the committee would do. Of course, Notre Dame was ranked at number 2 just this past week, so you would think they would have a great shot. Texas A&M, they won though, and they were right there at number 5. So you would think that they have a great shot. I really believe the committee is going to choose between these 2 teams. I don't know which one they're going to go with for sure, but I feel somewhat confident on who they're going to pick. Let's talk about the argument for both teams. They both have bad losses, or not bad losses, but they both lost by a lot to the top 4, to a team in the top 4. A&M to Alabama, Clemson to Notre Dame. So that's really the same. And I know some people are going to say, well, Notre Dame lost late. Texas A&M lost early. That really shouldn't matter. You're looking at the whole body of work, not how a team played in their last game. So to me, that kind of cancels out. And then you look at the resume. Notre Dame has the win over Clemson, a top 5 team, or the number 2 team. A&M has the win over Florida, a top 10 team, but not quite as good. And then you also have Notre Dame's win over North Carolina. Texas A&M doesn't have another win over a top 25 team. But if you go by the overall strength of schedule, A&M does have an advantage based off of the numbers that are out there. What I think makes the difference here is the fact that Notre Dame's win over Clemson was against the Clemson team that was missing a lot of players. And the committee looks at that, and they look at teams, were they full strength when they played, things like that. And because of that, and because of the fact that, yes, again, it shouldn't matter that much when the team loses, but I think it's going to a little bit here. Notre Dame just lost. I mean, they just lost by a lot. You can make an argument that Texas A&M is a better team now than when they played Alabama. Plus, A&M lost on the road. Notre Dame lost on a neutral field. Another argument that goes in A&M's favor. I think the committee will go with Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M is going to be the 4th team in the college football playoff. Again, I don't feel super confident on this pick, but I think it will be between A&M and Notre Dame. It's one of those two teams. Oklahoma, for me, makes a great argument, but I don't think they're going to put a 2-loss team in there, and they're just not going to put Cincinnati in. They've proven with where they've ranked them. Now, I will say this. Like I've said at the beginning of this video, there's always something. There's always a separator. Something they can lean on and say, well, it came down to this team having 1 loss and this team having 2 losses, something like that. If they can't decide and they don't know who to put in here, they could go back and put Cincinnati and say, well, this was the undefeated team. Maybe. I don't think they're going to do that, but it wouldn't shock me. So I think it's going to be one of those 4 teams for sure, but really I think it comes down to A&M and Notre Dame. I think the Aggies will be the number 4 team. All right, I'm going to go through and show you now my updated New Year's 6 bowl projections, and we have some changes. First of all, in the Orange Bowl, because North Carolina now is out of here, Notre Dame drops to the Orange Bowl. We have Florida versus Notre Dame. Now, if Notre Dame does get into the playoff, the Orange Bowl has to take an ACC team. That would allow North Carolina to go to the Orange Bowl. If that happens, then the projections are going to be pretty much the same as they were earlier in the week when I did that video. If you missed that video, go check it out. Again, Notre Dame finishes at number 4. Then I'm going to go back with those projections. But this is based off of Texas A&M being number 4. I think Florida goes to the Orange Bowl here. They're going to take an SEC or Big Ten team. I think they take the Gators. Close geographically, and I think that makes a lot of sense. So we see Florida versus Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl. Peach Bowl, Georgia-Cincinnati. This is actually the same matchup that I already had. Cincinnati will be the highest ranked Group of 5 champion. Georgia is going to be ranked high enough. All right, in the Fiesta Bowl, no change from earlier in the week. I still think Iowa State gets in here. The change comes, of course, in the Pac-12 because Oregon won the Pac-12 instead of USC. So we see Oregon versus Iowa State. I know Iowa State just lost, but it was a close game to a top 10 team. They're not going to drop much. They'll still be ranked high enough. Iowa State versus Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl. And then the final bowl game that has changed a little bit. It's the Cotton Bowl. I do have Oklahoma still in the Cotton Bowl, but I have them facing Indiana. Indiana will now make it in because of what happened, because Notre Dame takes the Orange Bowl, North Carolina gets knocked out, Indiana finds themselves into the Cotton Bowl. I don't see a team ranked behind them that's going to pass them based on the current rankings, so I think the Hoosiers make it into the Cotton Bowl here to face Oklahoma, and those are my projections. Again, if Notre Dame finishes in the top 4, Indiana will not make a New Year's 6 Bowl. North Carolina will, because they'll represent the ACC in the Orange Bowl. So that's who I think is in. Who do you think is in? Give me your predictions down in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching this video, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.